Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries, whether that be film or music even maybe, or you want to be an actor, a YouTuber, you just want to be creative and make stuff, and then people give you the money and then you spend that money on your existence, whatever that is. This week we have got a Meet the Makers episode, so it's just me, it's Dan, and we will soon be handing over to James of the year 2020, which is when we recorded these episodes. They're actually Q&As with some incredible figures from the film and TV industry, figures that we haven't spoken to yet on the Young Film Academy podcast, so we thought it would be really nice to share the conversation between them and James, and also our students and people that have attended the Young Film Academy courses or just follow us on social media were also asking questions as well. So it was very much an open Q&A format that we created for this during the first lockdown. And we've got Alan Gilmore on this episode, who is the production designer on many incredible films, including namely the Harry Potter films, and he just does such a good job on those films. And now we're about to peel back the curtain and hear about how that works.
He's been the art director on some incredible films, some of my favourites among them, and notably 3 of the extraordinarily successful Harry Potter movies. Alan has worked on Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, as well as many other films as varied as The Bourne Ultimatum, X-Men First Class, World War Z, and Johnny English. I would describe Alan as someone...
Hello, everybody. Here I am. Hi.
Hello, Alan.
Hey, nice to meet you all.
Now, Alan, is that a fair? Would you think of yourself as someone who makes dreams come true?
Well, I think I'm just very lucky to be part of a huge team of people who do that, a whole industry of people. People who come to the film industry and television industry tend to be travelers and explorers, and they want to be as creative as possible. A lot of accepted the kind of chaotic nature of this lifestyle and career, but it's very rewarding. So when you get to do some exciting work, it really is so fulfilling.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we're going to talk about some of your films in a bit more detail, Alan, during the session. But what we try and do at Young Film Academy is to really drill down for some of our young people, some of our students. These sessions really open their eyes to some of the areas of the film industry and movie industry and TV industry that they wouldn't necessarily have been aware of. And I think that the art department is probably one of those. And I suspect that we've got a lot of young people who are creative, and at that early stage of their life, they don't know quite where to channel that creativity. So a lot of our young people might be very good at art or drawing or in some fashion sort of not classically film, but this talk might be very inspiring for them. So could we first find out, what does an art director do? So when you're working on a film like the Harry Potter films, can you give us a very basic description? What is your role and what are you doing day to day?
Well, the art director works within the art department, which is a team that works below the director. So my boss is what's called a production designer. It's the job I now do myself. But in the structure of a film, making a film or a TV show, you have a very rigid structure of connections of people, way down from the director, the producers, the managers, to the production designer who I work for. We also work with the cameraman. We work with visual effects. We work with the construction department to build all our sets. We work with the costume department. There's many, many departments, but I would say the art department is pretty high up there because essentially everything that we do is what you see on the screen. Anything you see on the screen that the actor is involved in, whether it's a room they're in, a building, a piece of furniture, a prop, which might be a book or an object, everything you see, we will generally create. And if we don't create it, we'll help create it through the magic of visual effects or any other mediums. It's a very diverse department. So I fit in near the top of that team, where I direct the sets being built. I design the sets. I work with all the other departments, and we make everything happen. It's a lot to explain in a few sentences, to be honest. It's a big, big world.
So in a movie like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, because we're going to take a look at a clip from that movie, let's sort of make it simplified. So what would the kind of a brief that you and your team be given at the start, and sort of how does, just roughly talk us through how you get to the end point of your brief?
Sure. So every project has a script, and the script is our guidebook for the whole project. It's like a book, but it's written very visually. So unlike reading a book, it'll say who the person is talking, where they are, it's day or night, interior, exterior. It gives you a lot of information. But for example, in a film like Harry Potter, it might say interior, the Great Hall. So that's all it says, interior, the Great Hall. Nobody knows what that Great Hall looks like. So our job in the arts department is to make the Great Hall real. So with the guidance of the director, initially, who will have strong ideas on what the film should look like, the writer, J.K. Rowling in this circumstance, she had a very clear vision of what the world is. She actually shared a beautiful drawing with Stuart, my friend, the production designer, a plan of the world of Harry Potter. Very simple, but it located every part of the storyline, which for us in the arts department is gold. It's our guidebook. So we knew then that Hogwarts was by a lake. We knew that there was a village called Hogsmeade. We knew there was a train going to London. All these things were something that we learned very quickly off this guide plan. But yes, the script is our starting point, and we start to visualize that. We research. On Harry Potter, we decided early on that the architecture was what's called Gothic. So Gothic is like what a lot of churches look like, a lot of French buildings, very pointy, very tall, very dramatic. And we took that as our basis for designing all these amazing places.
Amazing. And so you start with, let's say, the great, I mean, I love this because we were talking to a screenwriter earlier in this series about to some extent, the ease of screenwriter writes, that terrible line for a producer, and the battle commences, which is a very easy line to write and slightly harder to actually make real. So for you, when it starts with the Great Hall, for instance, like what's the first stage? Someone produces a drawing and then someone has to sign that off? I mean, what are the stages between that?
I think firstly, you decide, like, how great is this hall? How big is it? Like, is it a room? Is it a small English castle? Is it a huge hall in Oxford? Where is this hall? So very quickly, we worked out, also on a script, you do what's called a breakdown. You analyze the scale of every scene, every moment, and you count how many characters there are. And in Harry Potter, there are many, many characters. So we knew it was a school. So then we could work out how many kids would be in each year in the school. So if it's a big boarding college, oh my gosh, maybe there's 200 kids in each year. So very quickly, you say how many years are in from start to finish of that school. Okay, this Great Hall has to accommodate 800 students and their teachers and the headmaster and maybe some other staff. So quickly, that gives you a scale. And my background is architecture. You can very quickly then plan how big a room would be 800 people. So that gives you a scale very quickly. Then that tells you how tall the room will be, how wide it will be. So then we get into filling in all the lovely details. What are the windows like? What's the roof like? What's the floor? What's the furniture? And it's a really cool exploration as you go through all these different parts. And then other teams split off. Like I said, the prop team will work with us and they'll go, well, what props are there? What objects are they holding? The costume designer will work with us saying, well, what are they wearing? The camera guy will go, where's the camera going to go? So there's all these technical little details that we are naturally trained to think about. So when we design, we're allowing for where the cameras can go, where the actors can go, how far away the lights are. It's an amazing process.
And at what point, let's say Alan decides that he wants a hall that is enormous and you want to go and literally build a huge hall or reconstruct a hall. At what point does a sort of budget constraint come in where someone goes, Alan, it's a great idea, but we just can't afford it?
Well, very quickly, we have what's called a construction manager who works with the art department. And this construction manager is like our accountant. He adds up the costs and he knows exactly, just looking at a drawing, that'll cost £300,000 or £400,000 or £10,000. So very quickly, we set a budget ahead of time, and we then take all the parts of the script, and each gets assigned its own mini budget. But we count how many times does that Great Hall appear in the film. If it only appears once, then really you cannot spend a fortune on it. But if it appears 25 times, it justifies itself, and it starts to become a very important place. And the more justification there is for it, sometimes you can go back to the writer and say, hey, maybe we can have a few more moments in the Great Hall or some other parts. And you kind of play a little game then, how you justify your ideas, your design. The other constraints are, yes, we design in Harry Potter, it's a huge Great Hall. It's maybe 200 feet high or however, and 80 feet wide, 100 feet wide. we have to build that inside a real building often. And those buildings are called sound stages. And generally, they're not that high. So there's a magic cutoff somewhere where you'll build a set up to a certain height, enough that the camera can hopefully be in a real room all the time. Here's another thing about Harry Potter. It's very important that when the actors are acting, that they're always in a full environment, that they experience, whether it's the Great Hall or their bedroom or a common room or a corridor, that they're fully immersed. And immersion helps actors perform even better, that they're not always looking at a blank, distant wall or 100 people staring back at them. We always try to put them in a real place. And they tend to respond to that. But yeah, our constraints, yes, our budget, the size of the set, how we'll fit it into a building. There's lots of little details you have to work out. But generally, after a few jobs, you start to learn this very quickly and how to do it. Whether it's a Great Hall or it's a spaceship or it's an airplane, you work it out really quickly.
So exciting. So we're going to take a look then, because we found that playing clips in these sessions is just a really nice way to sort of focus in and everyone sort of visualize what it is that you actually do. So we're going to take a look at a clip from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Just before we do, Alan, can you just give us a little bit of context to sort of what was, we're literally going to go from just before they kind of reveal it and it does this wonderful opening thing. Kind of what were the challenges of this sequence for you?
Well, it's a very technical sequence. It looks very simple, but everything you see is pretty much done for real. Every object is a real object moving. There are wires pulling the set apart that are then taken out by VFX, visual effects. There are special lighting tricks. The actors have to interact with the moving parts. You also have to be very careful as well when you're dealing with real people. And movie making is a kind of a crazy science sometimes. It's not like you're buying an object that has been designed for years ago and tested a million times. Often the set is just finished moments before you film. And you are testing as best you can, but we try to be as careful as we can. Like, every set is unique, but we have a very good protocol for how to make it be safe and work properly. This set for me was very exciting because Stuart, my production designer above me on this film, had this crazy idea that, hey, let's make the set come apart. So he gave me the challenge to work that out. So through models, through drawings, through digital models, and paper models, we worked it out. We made a whole scaled version of it ahead of time, shared that with everybody, the director, the producers, the actors, they all loved it. And what you're about to see is the end result of that interesting journey.
Obviously, you cannot watch this clip because there's no visuals to this podcast. You are welcome to close your eyes and imagine the visuals. You can picture me surrounded by alpacas with a microphone, having a great time. That's pretty much how the podcast is recorded. And use that imagination further to imagine the sequence from Harry Potter, or recall from your memory, if you remember the Chamber of Secrets, when the set expands essentially in the bathroom when the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is revealed. That's what you have just watched. You just need to imagine it.
Fantastic. What a great sequence, Alan. So let's just talk a little bit about this. So, I mean, in practice, if one had stood on that set, how much of that was VFX and how much, so visual effects done in post-production, how much of that would have looked very similar to the way it looks in the end on set?
Well, really, all of the start of the scene when the basins come apart and the top of the basin rises into the ceiling, that's all real. That's all physical. So we built a very large set. It's probably as tall as we could go, maybe 40 feet high, almost like a church interior. The design of all the architecture is, again, Gothic, very pointy, lots of leaded windows like you'd see in a church. So it's very familiar. It's a very comfortable place. When you see Gilderoy Lockhart looking down into the shaft, yes, that's a visual effects add-on. So there would have been a circle of maybe green screen or blue screen on the floor, and then we add that shaft afterwards. But we did actually build a shaft separately, which is filmed. It's like a big jigsaw. You add all the pieces together, and you can start to compose this whole amazing sequence. Moaning Myrtle, she's a VFX. We filmed her for real against blue screen or green screen. Then they compose her back into the main scene. So we design it all as a whole world. I was just thinking as we're watching that, you might say, how do they build something so big? Well, we don't. We design, like a city, we design the whole city, and then we go into which parts we're in, what street are we going to stand in, what corner, and then we make those the sets. And if we need to join them together by visual effects, we can do that.
And the tunnel, for instance, that they slide down. Like, did you build the tunnel?
Yeah, that's a set we built. It's like a slide, but a big tunnel. It looks like a stone chute. It's really menacing. Lots of patina. We love what the word patina, kind of aging and dirt, and we want you to look at this and feel like it's been around a long time. Hogwarts is 1,000 years old in the films, so we had to give you that sense of history, that it's been there for many generations. It's really well built. It's going to last forever. It has a lot of layers to it, a lot of hidden layers, and all these strange spaces that you don't know about, hidden under floors and behind buildings. It just adds to the whole sense of mystery.
Right. So a lot of your job, it sounds like, Alan, is sort of finding the right character and tone in the physical space.
Yes, we try to we use a lot of references, real world references, buildings around London or the UK or Europe, all over the world. We find tones like value of light. Light is very important. Color tones are very important. You're trying to convey as much emotion through a two-dimensional surface as you can, because you are watching it two-dimensionally, but you really, in a way, you're experiencing it three-dimensionally in your mind. You're really absorbing all these other side details while your eye is completely focused on the character. I think you're taking in everything around the character and the space they're occupying and the moods they're in.
Amazing. And how many people, because obviously Harry Potter was a huge commercial franchise, and that meant that it could employ bigger teams than you might usually find and have bigger studio spaces for longer. How big was your art department team in total on Harry Potter?
I'd say in our main office, there was 60 to 100, but outside of that, there were many hundreds more. It went from people actually doing the drawings, the blueprints, to model makers, to graphic designers, what are called concept artists. They're people who do paintings that are our ideas. They illustrate our ideas to help speed the process up. So we could give them a picture of St. Paul's Cathedral in London, say, and I would say, can we add a stairs over there? Can we put more light coming in? Can we have a hole in the ground? Can we have people fighting in the background? And they would add all of that in. And it would like a much more advanced version of a comic in a way, very realistic looking. And you would look at their picture and go, oh my God, this is a real moment. And if everybody likes the idea, then we would go off and make that happen, make it real.
Amazing. And how technical, I mean, at what point, I can see there's a lot of art involved, but at what point do you also have to be an engineer, a kind of technician in terms of 3D modeling and drawing and all that kind of technical stuff?
There's a reality, there's only so many hats you can wear. I wear a lot of hats very lightly. I can operate 3D modeling, I can draw, I can do these concepts at a very basic level, but we rely on specialists really. So I'm more of an organizer, but I've a creative mind. I know what I want. I have a vision, but then I work with all these amazing other creatives to help them steer the design and the results. So like I said, concept artists we use, graphic designers. You direct all of these people. It's too much for one person to do. You need this big team around you.
But it must be really, I mean, what a stimulating, and what kind of backgrounds have people in an art department got? Like, give us a flavour of the kind of people who are working in an art department.
You get, like myself, a few architects. You might get painters, writers. A good friend of mine is a school teacher who came into the film art department. Wow. He's now a fantastic art director. He just did the Fantastic Beasts films. Another friend of mine came from illustrating boats, doing concepts of boats. He's from Cornwall. And now he's a production designer and art director as well. So if you like design, if you like creativity, there's probably a place for you somewhere in this world. You just have to find your niche. The trick is to try and, in your younger years, try and absorb as much as you can creatively and find the things you're really interested in. Like, are you interested in making things out of wood? Do you love old castles? Do you love vehicles? Like, we have art directors who specialize in vehicles. A good friend of mine, he has just done all the Star Wars films, and he designed all the speeders and the newer vehicles. And he loves cars, old cars. So a lot of his interests have led into his art department life.
Because those speeders are like kind of old motorbikes. They're great.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, he explained to me one day where he found the headlights on one, and yes, they were old tractor headlights, but yet they're in Star Wars. I love that. I love that kind of lateral content, that lovely referencing from other things. This is why whatever we do, we want to make it feel familiar. It's important that when you look at it, you know it. It feels right. It's not too fantasy-based.
Well, that's it. So, because in Harry Potter, I think you mentioned this thing about what you call heightened reality. So, what does that mean in regard to Harry Potter?
Well, heightened reality is something, especially in Harry Potter, where you take a design, like the example what we just saw, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Yes, it's a bathroom, but it's like no bathroom you've ever seen before. It's very familiar. It feels like a crypt of a church, or it feels like an old Victorian or Gothic space. But have you ever seen a bathroom do that? No, you haven't. But when you watch the film, it makes sense. You go, I accept this. This is the world of Harry Potter, and this is what happens in that world. And the more and more we grew upon these ideas and advanced them and have these little details everywhere, it's very important that you have ghosts, you have magic. It is a place of magic. It's a place nobody's ever been to. It's in the magical world. Us muggles have never been there. We don't even know it's there. In fact, if we went through Scotland, it might be right beside us, but we can't see it. That's the beauty of Harry Potter. It's J.K. Rowling tapped into something very special in the world she created.
Amazing. I have to ask, so how did you get involvement with J.K. Rowling throughout this process? Did you meet her? How did she interact with the art department?
Well, we'd meet her every so often. She has an amazing big world to develop. As we were making the films, she was writing the next book. She was developing other ideas. She's a lot of charities. So yes, we'd meet her every so often. But like I mentioned a while back, it's a very structured organization making a movie. So we would rely on the director to talk to her, or maybe the production designer who I worked for. So you're always one or two steps away from her, but you're getting very direct information. And she knew who we all were. She understood all our ideas and all our work. And she was very accepting of our process, that the world we created was exactly what she said it should be.
Amazing. And it was quite rare in that respect that she was, as a writer, writers don't usually like the kind of film results, but famously she's always been very positive about it.
I think it was just a very good team. It was like a really good football team in a way. Just everybody worked together really well. All her ideas were what she said they should be. We had a very strict vision for her books. Sometimes you'll see out in the greater world, there'll be illustrations from Harry Potter on book covers, or other thoughts on what a place Diagon Alley might look like, or Hogwarts. But our version, we feel, is the most realistic, but the heightened reality version. It looks normal, but it's very exciting.
So that sort of leads us very nicely on to our second clip that we're going to have a look at. So this is from the Quidditch World Cup sequence in the Goblet of Fire. So again, what was your brief when you came to sort of design this sequence? Talk us through it before we see it.
Well, I think, again, when J.K. wrote that it's a World Cup, that gave us a scale. So you think of every 4 years we have a World Cup, how big are the stadiums, how many people are there, maybe 80 to 100,000. So that's the scale we had. So we had this amazing stadium. The Quidditch pitch was designed for the earlier films. So we know the shape of the Quidditch pitch is almost elliptical with these very interesting poles, how you score your points. We know everybody's flying. So unlike a pitch that you're used to, like a football pitch or any normal pitch, this pitch is very, very tall. It's hundreds of feet high because the game takes place in space right all around you. So we come up with a design like a giant bowl, and we discussed where to locate it, and we ended up locating it on the south coast in the chalk cliffs near Dover. And buried into the chalk cliffs, we built this amazing, almost Victorian engineered stadium with very beautiful structure, very amazing seating. So the seating is only one person deep on the upper levels. The lower levels is tiered like a normal stadium, like say Wembley or somewhere. But all the vertical runs are one person deep, so they all get to see the action firsthand. There's a very strange structure in the middle of the stadium. That's the ministry box. That's where all the ministers are from the Ministry of Magic. So that's a very eclectic piece of engineering. A lot of fun designing that. And we actually built that for real in London in the studios. So a lot of what you see in this is VFX. All the actors are real. They were filmed against green screens on amazing flying rigs. Anybody standing in the stands or in the ministry box was filmed for real in a set.
In other episodes, I have literally described the sequences that you would be seeing if you were to see the clips being played. However, in fact, you can watch these clips, I think, on YouTube. On our YouTube channel, you can watch the Meet the Makers and visuals. But the podcast is where it's at, so that's where the latest stuff is happening. Anyway, yeah, so I in other episodes, I have described what's been going on, but I'm not going to describe Harry Potter to you. Like, despite how entertaining and how wonderful my descriptions have been, you can't do it justice. You need to go and watch Harry Potter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's up to you whether you want to watch The Fantastic Beasts. It's a different story. And then come back. Now, albeit, I know that's the most amount of homework that we've ever set you to go and watch between an episode or during an episode, but it's worth it. Everyone should watch Harry Potter, I think. But it's the World Cup sequence from the Goblet of Fire. You've got Victor Crumb, looking very cool. You've got the Irish, and they're all flying around in the huge stadium that's being introduced. You know, the game was introduced by the Minister of Magic. That whole sequence, beautiful spectacle of visuals. See, I'm doing it. I'm describing what you would be seeing. I said I wouldn't. Okay, that's enough of that. Back to the interview.
Wow, what a great clip. And I'm struck by watching that. I mean, it's just the size of the imagination to create that space, I suppose, is my first reaction. And the second is how on earth you start to work out when it's going to be built for real and when it's going to be visual effects, and how, as a team, you try to put those two things together.
Well, I think looking at that sequence, you saw, I'll explain previously, that anytime you saw an actor standing by a railing or in the crowds, they're sets. If somebody's flying, like in reality, we can't build a huge stadium. We just can't be done. So that very quickly locates that moment as a VFX moment, visual effects. If we can have a real environment behind them, we always try to do that because it just feels more natural. The lighting is more realistic. Visual effects are advancing every year. They get better and better and better. And soon they will be identical to a set build. But in the period of time we made this movie, set builds were the priority to do it for real physically. So you saw the minister there standing in the box, starting the match. That was all a huge set built in London, multiple levels. By the way, everything worked on that set. All the windows moved, all the chairs moved. It all actually worked. Nothing was fake. It was a real machine, a fantastic machine. We've always tried to bring in kind of an engineering feel to Harry Potter as well. A lot of rivets, nuts and bolts, and mechanics and chains. And that's something I specialize in myself. I love all those kind of mechanical designs. But yeah, it's a very fast sequence, but very rich in storytelling. And for scale, when we visualize and design these sets, we don't even worry about what's real, what's not real. We just design the biggest and best we can, and then you zoom into that and decide which bits to build.
God, so you have to sort of keep the sort of often the logistical reality of it almost out of your mind.
You do. You have to think big. It's a case of, for a movie like Harry Potter, you have to think as big as you can. It's very easy to think small and go, okay, well, how big is a person? Okay, that's how big the chair should be. That's how big the building should be they're in. No, we tend to try and go bigger and bigger and grander. Again, going back to the Gothic world of architecture, Gothic architecture was designed to be impressive. It was actually designed to almost scare us in scale. Cathedrals that are hundreds of feet high, they were the skyscrapers of their time. And that's the kind of architecture style we wanted to emulate.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, we're going to start to take some questions soon, guys. So do make sure you send your question in. And just a reminder that if you put audio after your question, we'd be delighted to unmute your microphone, which we can do remotely. And you can ask your question to Alan yourself. So please do that. We really love to hear from you. And do put your name, age, if you would like to, and where you're from after your question, whether it's audio or not. And we will put as many of these as we can to Alan. So, Alan, first of all, I've got a question here. So we're going to start these. We've got lots of them coming in.
Okay.
So a question from Jack Fernie, who is aged 11. And he has asked, how did you do the lake in Goblet of Fire?
Jack, that's a tough question. Okay. So that's actually, again, a bit like what you just saw. It's a real lake, but it's actually a water tank. So we built a huge water tank at the movie studios in London. And we had machines to create the waves and the ripples. And we have multiple water tanks. We have swimmers, we have actors, we have doubles who look like the actors. They would be acting the actual swimming moments. The main actors, like Daniel Radcliffe, did actually do a lot of his own swimming. He's a very brave chap. Most of the actors did their own swimming. So basically, it's a special controlled environment. Anytime you see water in movies, it's never actually the real ocean or the real sea or a real river. We tend to build a set so we can control that. We can control the color, We can control how much the water moves. We can control the safety. So it really, it's another specialized art form working in water. I've done a lot of water movies, and they're a whole other world, I have to say.
Well, fantastic. We've got a question, no name on this one, but it said, what gave you the idea for Hagrid's hut? So I suppose, were you involved in the design process for Hagrid's hut?
Yes, I was actually. But again, Stuart Craig, our main, what's called production designer, who led the creative team, he had this idea of an octagon, which is a shape, 8 sides. So Hagrid's hut is 2 octagons connected together. It's very quirky. In designing Hagrid's hut, we had to work out who is Hagrid. What's his story? Where's he from? How skilled is he? So Hagrid is a groundskeeper, and he built his own hut. So unlike Hogwarts and many of the other buildings, which are built by stonemasons and artisans, Hagrid's hut is self-built. It's a homemade house. So it's a little bit crude. It's got heavy wood, big stones. He has stuffed moss into the gaps between the stones. The roof is a little bit wonky. When you're inside the house, it's all a bit heavy and crude. You saw the huge furniture he has. And that's part of his character. We wanted his house to tell you, who is he? Who is the character?
Wow. What a process. So it's so much of it is actually for you is thinking into the story and the character and then working out the physicality of it from that point.
Well, for me to work, I need to know the place. I need to know the character. I need to know the character's backstory. I need to know where they're from. How have they other friends? Have they brothers and sisters? It's a very deep reality you have to create, because you have to make sense of what world would they have. If you think of your own house, what objects in your house, what things do you own? You have to create that same story for a character who doesn't sometimes exist. You have to make a fake reality.
Great. Okay, we have a question here from Grace Hosier. She's 14 from Norfolk, and she says, how do you cope with any artistic block or problems in representing your ideas?
Grace, good question. And my sister's Grace as well, by the way. So, yeah, we all have artistic blocks. It's a normal thing. Anybody who's in the creative world will say, sometimes I just can't think. I can't come up with an idea. So I'll go for a big walk. Maybe I'll go for a cycle. I will listen to some music. I'll open some books. And very often the ideas will resolve themselves. The challenge is not as bad as you think it is. When you're working on a movie, it can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. There are too many things going on, too many questions, too many people coming saying, what do I do? What do I do? Where do we go? And you have to take everything in small chunks. Any job in the world, you have to step back from the challenge and go, okay, let's make a small challenge first and solve each small challenge. And that's how we do it on the films. We take small bite-sized challenges and we solve them. And sometimes by solving one idea, it gives you another idea. It's such a cool process that the first idea you had isn't always the last idea. And sometimes you'll go around for days and days coming up with ideas and you go, my first idea was the best idea. It's quite frustrating at times, but it's like your brain is telling you what's right. It's very hard to explain. It's a good question.
I think that's the idea of taking things in small chunks to not feel overwhelming, especially about film production, whether that's students starting their own first short films or going up to Harry Potter.
I think just to mention, like, students shouldn't look at something like Harry Potter and say, I have to do this right away. Start small. Start with a single person, a single idea, maybe just one person in a space on their own thinking, doing something. Build from that, then add a second person, then add a third person, make a bigger moment of it. Take small steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Okay, so we have a question from Sadie Sacklow, who asks, she's 8 years old from London. And Sadie's question is, how many children would go in the room in Hogwarts in the movie?
Good question, Sadie. So, as a child, I have a daughter, Orla, who's 7, so she's a very close age to you. We have to be very careful to not overstress all the actors, and when you work with children and adults together, you have to be very careful how they're all accommodated together. But we would have quite a lot of kids in the film. Like, again, the Great Hall, you could have hundreds of kids. We had background artists who support the main actors. I remember days up at the studios where there were hundreds of kids all around, giggling, playing. It was like a school. It was fantastic. And the energy they gave us was just brilliant. Like, it helped us really develop our skills even further. You can have as many as you want. You can have 1, you can have 2, you can have hundreds. Really, it all depended on the scale of the moment of the film.
Terrific. For this next question, we're going to go to Tilly Miller Comrie, who hopefully Tilly is going to ask this question herself. Tilly is aged 14, so I think we can hear Tilly. So Tilly, do go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. During your work in the Harry Potter franchise, how influential were the books and J.K. Rowling in inspiring the sets and set design? Also, was there any influence from the X-Men comics when you were designing the sets for X-Men First Class?
Right, Tilly, that's a really big question. That's cool. So, with regards to Harry Potter, firstly, the books they're our Bible. They're the first thing we go to always, because they're from J.K. Rowling's mind. So, we want to be as true to her storytelling as possible. What we would do is, the book doesn't always describe the place in great detail, so we would have to fill in that information. So again, take the Great Hall. If the book will say Harry and Ron are sitting in the Great Hall chatting, that's all it'll say. So again, we worked out how big is the Great Hall, what does it look like, how many chairs are there, what is on the tables, what are in the windows, is it a sunny day, is it a stormy day, where are all the other characters? And we work all this out with the director, with J.K. Rowling herself. And really, the books are our absolute guidance for anything we create. We always go back to the book. So in the order of importance, you have the book, then you have the script. The script comes in the book, and then the script tells us what we're making in the film. And we would then go to the script and the book at the same time to help design all these sets. For X-Men, I worked on X-Men First Class, which is it's kind of a retro X-Men. It went back to the 1960s. So it's when Professor Xavier is very young and you're establishing all the characters. So we went back to 60s architecture, like retro architecture, but very cool. We found buildings that really showed us the style of X-Men. We had to design, like in our film, it's the first time the wheelchair was ever seen. So a lot of the objects that people know about from all the recent films, we had to create the backstory of those objects. So again, a bit like Harry Potter, we had to create a history for the X-Men. Like, where do they come from? How did they become the X-Men? And it was it's similar to Harry Potter, but very different. And that's, again, why I love the job I do, because you're pushed in so many different directions with each job, and you have to think very differently. I hope that helps a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question, Tilly. This next question is from Sophia Emmett, who asks Sophia is 14 and from Oxford. And Sophia asks, what is your favourite part of the process?
Hi, Sophia. Gosh, these are all really good questions. I think I love the very first steps we make when we're making a film, when we're trying to work out what is it, what would it look like. You're trying to pick the brain of the director and you're picking the brain of the writers. You need to get out of their heads what's the world they think they're creating. Because it's very easy for me to come along and say, well, I think it should be a big green castle. I think it should be a blue room. They might go, no, that's not what I was thinking. So I like to try and learn from them, firstly, what is the vision you have? Even if they give you very much like a doodle or a sketch, I just want a basic idea of where you think things are. I mentioned earlier that J.K. Rowling gave us a sketched plan of the world of Harry Potter early on. That was invaluable. That gave us a map, a roadmap. So any film I work on now, we always look for that roadmap. We look for that direction. And sometimes they cannot give it to us. We have to create it ourselves. But if they have it, it's what we need. We have to have that firstly.
Fantastic. So this next question is about which we will all relate to this next question, I think, Alan. This is from an anonymous attendee who says, have you ever had sets that just don't work? Like the concept just doesn't translate? So I suppose we can all relate to that, where you think it's going to be great and then in the end you just go, it just didn't quite do it.
I'll be honest, we try to fix that ahead of time. I do have a very good gut instinct after many years of working on movies. When I work with the concept artists and the other ideas people, very quickly I can tell if it's not going the right way. The biggest thing is politics, how to tell those people they're not going the right way, because you want to keep everybody inspired. But if their idea isn't the right idea, you have to find a way to explain where the idea should go. What should you be doing? So I feel I've developed a new skill in a way to help guide not such good ideas to make them better ideas. I've been lucky that I haven't had to build a bad set in my career so far. They generally turn out the way we want them to turn out. Sometimes we can be let down by other factors. We can build the most beautiful sets ever, but if the filming isn't right, or if the actor is not doing too well, if the editing is not so good, because again, after my work on the film, there's all these other layers that happen past me. There's the visual effects, there's the editing, which joins all the parts together. There's the director's choices. So you just hope that everybody is aiming in one direction and the best direction.
Now, this is from Horatio from Bucks, who asks, would you say that production companies favour scripts that require less or more artistic direction? In other words, as a writer, how much description of the design of the set is expected in the script itself?
I would say, Horatio, that every film project wants the best. They want the best visuals, they want the best storytelling, they want the best acting, the best lighting, the best editing. We all want the best. We always have budgets. It's a challenge. On Harry Potter, we had a big budget, so we were very lucky to be able to do as much as we could. I've worked on many projects where the budget is much smaller, and we still aim for the best we can deliver. We'll find a way. We can't always create Hogwarts, we can't always create Hogsmeade or London, but we'll find a clever way to do that. As a filmmaker, you have to be very dexterous. You have to be able to go in different directions. Whether you have a budget of £1 million or you have a budget of £100, you have to be very creative. And what keeps you good is going between those budgets all the time.
Great. Nathan, who is 10 from just outside London, asks, in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, there are a lot of new things you introduced. Were all of those things new? Sorry, you. Were all those things you?
Well, I have to say I can't credit myself with all of it. I'd like to, but I have a big team of colleagues. We're all working it together, and ideas are introduced. Most things you see, as we said a while ago, come from the books. So we try to be as honest to J.K. Rowling's books as we can. But again, if J.K. Rowling wrote a word, if she said, oh, look, Dumbledore looks at a clock, that's very good for us. We can interpret that as being, it could be an amazing clock. It could be a clock with 100 clock faces. It could be a huge mechanism. It could connect to the ceiling. It could connect to the floor. So it allows us to be very creative and design something that you didn't expect. So you might have, say you read the book and went, okay, this is what I think I'm going to see. And then you watch the film and go, oh my gosh, it's so much bigger, so much wilder, so much more interesting. That's our job. Our job is to go further and make it bigger, and the heightened reality. That's what it's all about.
Which leads us perfectly on to our next question from Albie McQuillan, who says, have you ever had an idea that someone thought was too ambitious in the way that maybe you just described, but in the end it worked?
I think we all have these ideas, and we like to push ourselves as hard as we can. On Harry Potter, I had many big ideas which I presented back to the people above me, and sometimes they said no, and often they said yes. And it's very fulfilling if an idea of yours makes it into the final storytelling. It's all about ideas. No one person can be the creative force. It has to look normal and natural. And if one person created everything in the film, then it would look like that one person's style. You want to have many different flavors. That's what makes it more special, more unique, more natural, because filmmaking is not a robotic process. It's an artistic process. And artists tend to have lots of different ideas and flavors. And the more artists you can allow to express those ideas, the more rich the film will be.
And so many people working. Now, hopefully we're going to go for our next question to Sadie Sacklow, who's going to ask this question herself. We have a question from Sadie, and Sadie, we can hear you now, so please go ahead and ask your question.
How did you build the Hogwarts castle?
Hi, Sadie. That's a very good question, very big question, because as you know, Hogwarts is huge. It's 1,000 years old. It's 1,000 feet high, which is very tall. I don't know if you can understand how tall that would be, but that would be a building that could be 100 stories high. It's like a skyscraper in New York. So we built many, many, many sets to become Hogwarts. We have the Great Hall. We have the courtyard where the final battle happened, where many other scenes happened. We have the the common rooms. We have the Gryffindor's bedroom. We have the bathrooms. We built all of these places, all in multiple big rooms in London. And when you join all these parts together, it creates what looks like a huge real school. So it's all magic, really. It's make-believe filmmaking. But if you believe it's real, it is real.
And just to follow on from that, what about with the use of models for some of the exterior shots? How much modelling was used?
So yeah, we built a lot of models. That's a good question. We have a team, a very good model building team. Some of the best model builders in the world are in London. We have Hogwarts. So from a distance in the earlier films, Hogwarts is always a model from far away. And the closer you get, we build a bigger model and a bigger model and a bigger model until you're almost at a window or a door or a courtyard. Then that becomes a real set. So it's a series of closer until the last moment it becomes a real place. But before that last moment, it's a model. In the last few films, we actually used a lot more visual effects. We were talking about a while ago. Those visual effects are getting so good now. But I'm from the world of loving models. Models are beautiful to see. They look great. If they're done right, you will not know they're a model.
Okay, great. Octavia Sanger has asked a question. We're going to go to her for her audio. So, Octavia, you can go ahead and ask your question.
For sets that are supposed to be outdoors, how do you make them look like they're outside when they're actually set inside?
Very good. That's a great question, Octavia. So here's an example. Do you remember when at the, was it the Quidditch tournament? When Harry and the guys are in the tent, all the tents around the Quidditch stadium, they're meant to be outside. Well, that was actually all done inside a huge building. And when Harry went into the Weasley's tent, on the outside it's a tiny tent, but inside it's huge. So we built two different sets. We built an outside set of a little tent, then an inside set of a giant tent with lots of rooms. The way we make it look like you're outside is we have special lighting. So we work very closely with the guy who operates the camera and the lights, and they will adjust the lights to look like daylight or nighttime or sunshine. And it's really cool to watch this process. They use what are called gels, so like plastic with different colors, and they put those in front of the lights, and they can make it feel like a different time of day or a different tone. It's very hard to explain, but on a film camera, when we're making the film, you don't see on the set what you see in the movie theater or the cinema. It's a different warmth, a different color tone. But there are people who specialize in creating the effect of being outside when you're actually inside.
Great.
Sorry, that's a bit of a strange explanation. I hope it makes some sense.
That was great. Thank you for your question, Octavia. We have a question from Kate, who is 40 in Essex, and she says, what's the average timeline for how long it takes to design, build, test, and any other steps before a set's ready to be filmed?
Well, Kate, I think on a large film like Harry Potter, it could be up to 2 years ahead of filming. So we have a long lead-in time to conceptualize the designs, to take the script and understand the scope, the scale of it. Because when you're dealing with these huge budgets, they have to be very careful to allocate the money to the right places. This is not only us working. There are people designing like the costumes. There are what are called special effects that are designing. So in the Chamber of Secrets, the whole basins moving apart is a huge machine hidden under the set. And that huge machine needs to be designed. It takes many months to work out. So up to about 2 years, I would say. On a smaller movie, I could go from day one starting to actually having a set ready in a few weeks. It can be very quick.
Wow.
So it just depends on the scale of the movie.
And then we have a couple of questions here, which are about sort of quite specific elements. And I don't know if these will be relevant to your department, Alan. So this is from Paula Zik, who says that they are 12 years old from Croatia, and that they ask, did you make the Phoenix, Centaurs and Mermaids?
Hi, Paula. We did design them. So in the art department, we have what are called concept artists, and some of them specialize in what are called creatures. So a good friend of mine designed all those creatures. And for example, the mermaids, they're quite menacing, quite ominous. And we worked very hard on what would a mermaid look like in the Harry Potter world. A lot of my job is helping design creatures, which I love, because it's not something I originally ever thought I would get involved in. But in the last few years, I've been designing a lot more Harry Potter creatures for other projects as well. And it's a fascinating journey because a creature it's a character, it's an actor, but sometimes it's not real. But again, you have to give it a story, give it a character. How big is it? What does it do? How does it behave? Is it a nice creature or is it a bad creature? I've worked a lot on creatures for Hagrid. So I've helped design some of the dragons, and it's been a really interesting journey designing creatures that don't really exist, but they're in the mind of J.K. Rowling. It's a really, really cool process.
Millie Lowe, who is age 9, asks, how did you create Voldemort's rebirth in the graveyard?
That's actually was created by a friend of mine. So I worked on the graveyard, the tombstones and the landscape, but my good friend Rob actually designed the whole rebirth moment. And Rob's speciality is, I suppose, anatomy, like the body, arms, the shape of the body. He understands how we grow from a baby to an adult, and he incorporated a lot of these ideas into the rebirth. We all know that Voldemort is a very strange character. He's snake-like. He's odd. His arms are skinny. His body is scrawny. So Rob, when he designed the rebirth, incorporated all of those details from the older Voldemort into the younger Voldemort.
Fascinating. So many disciplines, almost like medical anatomy.
It's huge, and it has to be accurate. So again, Rob and I, all the artwork, we would study anatomy books. We would study autopsies, you name it, all these things. We have to know our subject matter as well as we can.
So varied. Sophie Boyack asks, what is the most difficult project you have worked on in your career?
Hi, Sophie. That's a big question. Wow, these are all really big questions. I think the Harry Potter films have to be up there as far as difficult and challenging, but I would never really say difficult because we generally know what we're doing. To work on these projects, you have to really know what you're at, and you have an amazing team around you who help solve problems. The challenge will be time, the scale of a design, how you make it work, how you make it happen. But we just have a process where we tend to, with the little bites we mentioned, we bite our way into these challenges, and they become doable. And generally, they always come out really good.
So it's a very positive attitude. So Hannah, at age 15 in Sussex, has asked, what's your least favourite part of the process? But it sounds like you enjoy it all.
Well, I think the least favourite is leaving it, finishing a job, because you want to keep doing it. You end up having a great, like being at school, you get to know all your colleagues really well, you all hang out together. You become like I've always described filmmaking as like being in school or college. It's like a creative atmosphere, and you get paid to do it, which is really cool sometimes. Don't always get paid. But it's a really collaborative, lovely world to be in. But I love finishing a film as well, because I know there's going to be another one. That's the next cool thing, what's next?
So we've just got time for a couple more questions here. We've got one from Adam Lewis, who's age 12, who asks, which of the Harry Potter movies was your favourite to work on?
Hey, Adam. I would say The Prisoner of Azkaban. We had a new director who came in, a very creative director, and he brought a very different vision to the film. It was much darker, much more menacing, and I loved that because the first films were very friendly, very happy. But as the series went on, the interesting thing is when we made the early films, we didn't think we were going to make all the other ones. We thought it would stop maybe after the first one, after the second one, and it kept going and getting better and better and better and bigger and bigger. But Azkaban to me was a turning point where the whole look and aesthetics of the film became much more interesting. It appealed to both children and adults, I think.
Great. Okay, so we're going to ask just one more question here. So this is from a similar, I suppose, but maybe a bit more specific. This is from Ella, who's aged 11 from London, who says, what was your favourite scene to film and why?
Wow, Ella, that's another very, very tough question, but a good way to end the whole meeting today. My favourite scene, oh my gosh. I need to think about this for a second because there's so many good ones, but I would say some of the scenes in Hogwarts itself, the Great Hall, I loved. Dumbledore's office I loved because it's such a rich place. It's his heart. It's a heart of the whole college of Hogwarts. So yeah, I would say Dumbledore's office is my favourite.
Great. Well, thank you guys for a fantastic set of questions there. That's been absolutely brilliant, and I hope you've enjoyed putting them to Alan and hearing from the horse's mouth, as it were. So we'd like to spend the last few minutes of the session, as we do, obviously, Young Film Academy, we have a real focus on helping young people understand how they might themselves come to work in this industry. And many of them report to us, which is absolutely true, they don't know how to get started. And we always say there is no one route. Everyone has to find their own individual way, find their path. So it's lovely for us to hear a little bit about people's own path in. So as I understand it, your background was as an architect.
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe, how did you kind of make your way into the industry yourself?
Well, my journey was a quirky journey, like many have. I studied architecture in Dublin. I was always interested in buildings and colours and design, but I wasn't really too sure. I was quite young when I went into it. And after a few years, I happened to see a film set in Ireland, and I was fascinated by it. It was a house that looked so real when I walked up to it, but then I touched it and tapped it, and it was hollow. And I looked at the back of it, it was just modern wood. I was just amazed at this ability to create a fake house. And that was a simple introduction for me. So I went on to finish my architecture studies. Around the same time as I finished, a film started locally where I was based, and it was a history film in Dublin, and they asked for some architects to help make the drawings. So I went on that film, working with a team of filmmakers in London who had come to Ireland to teach the Irish guys. And I worked on a few films with these guys. Then I came to London to work with them again, only expecting to come for a few weeks, but many years later I'm still here. And I've worked with many, many people now. And what I've realized is that it's such an international industry. On Harry Potter, we had people from every country in the world. Our graphic designer came from Brazil. We had creatives from America, from all over Europe, from the UK, Scotland, Wales, you name it, France, everywhere, Spain. Such an international team. And each person gave a flavor to that experience. There is no door to knock on, really. I think you have to start out small, like they already comes in with small bites. Maybe you get to work with a local theatre group or a local arts group. Get to experience making things, maybe painting things, designing things. You might soon realize, oh my gosh, I really love costumes, or I really love making buildings. I really love machines. I love animals. There are all these different departments. Like on Harry Potter, we had a huge animal department. All those lovely owls you saw, all these great dogs, they're all real. They had to live with us for many years. They were brilliant. And there are people who specialize in training owls or training birds, or there are all these different pathways in. They're all creative. So don't think you have to focus on one thing. There are many, many paths. And the older you get, the more you can start zooming in a little bit. London is pretty much the main centre of filmmaking in the UK, but there are huge centres in Manchester, in Scotland, in Cardiff, everywhere. There's many, many places you can get involved in the industries. And even internationally, you could travel. There are places all over the world. But I think, London is where I aimed for early on. I was very lucky to get a break. But just persevere. Keep with it. It's a strong, tough world to get into. But if you can get your foot in the door, it's a great place to be.
Well, I think that's a great way to end. We talk at Young Film Academy a lot about resilience and about understanding that it won't be successful with your first thing or your second thing or your third thing, and just keep at it, keep developing, keep building your skills.
Yeah, and even myself, after many years, I'm still learning and persevering, so you have to.
Yeah, there's a saying in the film world, isn't there? The cavalry is never coming. We always think the cavalry is coming, but they ain't. You just got to.
It's up to you. It's up to you. You have to be very strong in yourself.
Yeah. Well, Alan, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with all of us today and giving of your time. So on behalf of all of our students, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem. And thank you all for joining in today.
So guys, that is coming to the end of this session. Funds raised from this Q&A will be donated to the NHS COVID-19 charity appeal. So thank you very much, Alan, for making that possible and appearing today and sharing your experience. Before we finish, guys, just a reminder that Young Film Academy have a whole series of fantastic clubs and courses for ages 5 to 19. We've just launched a mini club for those of you in the younger age range, 5 to 10. That starts at the end of next week, so do look at the Young Film Academy website for details of that, as well as, and everything can be done remotely currently. So all Young Film Academy's courses are being done, so you can do them at home. So please do visit the website or any of our social media channels and find out what's next. We've also got some fantastic talks coming up with other Meet the Makers speakers, so please do join us for more on this series. And we look forward very much to seeing you at a future event. So thank you very much to all of you for coming. Thank you very much to you, Alan.
Thank you.
We'll see you again hopefully next week on Meet the Makers, and until then, stay safe and goodbye.
Bye all.